Right, hello everyone, I'm AndyDavo and welcome to my Norse Arena guide for every single team in Blood Bowl 3. First of all, let's go and have a look at the teams and decide how on earth we're going to build every single team. So we will see here that there are two main categories here. We've got cash allowed for each team, and then after that we've also got a skills allowance. So we look at tier 1, for example, with Dark Elves. We're allowed to build cash allowed 1150, and then after that we will be allowed to add 6 primary skills. So let's dive into Dark Elves and see what we can create. Here is my first Dark Elf build. So with 1150 and skills, we can see here we get a little bit more than the standard. So we're at 1270. So all builds should be for tier 1 teams should be 1270. I've gone for one of several variants here, but we've got 2 Witch Elves, one with block and one with wrestle. I've gone 3 bludgeoning blitzers, and then I've got a runner with dodge. So effectively got 6 players with dodge, and it's pretty reliable. And then down here we've put 3 rerolls in and 1 apothecary, so that gives me 11 players. This is the type of team that you probably want to start winning in regular time rather than pushing this out to overtime, because you won't do very well in the current overtime format. The other Dark Elf team for Arena that I've got here is a variant on the same idea. It's again 1270 team value, but I've now gone for double wrestle Witch Elves. The idea here is we're going to be playing very aggressively. I'm going to be diving in with the Witch Elves, trying to take the ball off the opponent. 4 bludgeoning blitzers gives us a bludgeoning blitzer to carry the ball, and the 3 bludgeoning blitzers to run around and cause mischief and mayhem on our own offense. We've got 12 players here, so this is with an eye on playing a slightly longer drive, but I do have to sacrifice down to only 2 rerolls. So with the 2 rerolls, you've got to be mindful about when and you turn ordering. And then the last thing I've got in this build here is we've got an assistant coach, so when the reroll kickoff event comes up, we might just be able to do all right and win a kickoff. Dark Elves are one of the teams I have completed, and this build that's on screen here is a very close variant to the one that I took. I think I just took a block Witch Elf instead of 2 wrestle, but it's much of a muchness. So on to our next team. I've got Dwarves, and the Dwarf one I have 2 builds for you again. This is the first one. So we have Dwarves with 12 players, 3 rerolls, 2 coaches, 1 cheerleader, and an apothecary. So it is incredibly resilient because everything is AV10 plus. We've got 3 players with guard on the Longbeards. I've got 2 guard blitzers. The idea here is that the guard blitzers are able to move around and apply the guard exactly where we want it. And then the mighty blow is on the Troll Slayer, so that I am able to create a little bit of punch and try and start removing things, because you're getting the frenzy hits, you're more likely to get the knockdown, and therefore you're more likely to apply the mighty blow to the knockdown rather than just punching with maybe a long beard. So that's that. And then you don't need skills on the runners, because if you can defend them with the 5 guard, they probably don't get hit very often, and so I take 2 with no skills. The other dwarf build I've gone for does contain warning, does contain wizard. It's basically the same thing, except we've got to pay for the wizard with some stuff. So gone are all the assistant coaches and cheerleaders. Gone is the apothecary, so it's slightly less resilient. We've also paid for it with a reroll, and we're down to 1 runner. We do have 12 players still. We could sacrifice that 12th player for something here like an apothecary, but it doesn't build very well. So I think the 12th player is the resilience factor of the apothecary. And then you'll see in the inducements section, we do indeed have a wizard. So this is pretty effective, pretty dangerous. I won my arena run with dwarves with the other build, but not to say that this wouldn't work for you, and I think would also be very effective. Right, on to Lizardmen. The Lizardmen are really, there is only 1 build for Lizardmen really in terms of skills. So the skills combo is 6 block. It just is. I would strongly recommend you don't go anywhere else other than 6 block. So 6 block it is, and then I've gone 12 players and 2 rerolls and an apothecary. The idea here is that you would apply Apothecary on maybe a KO'd Saurus or a badly hurt Saurus, And broadly, you don't really spend the apothecary on the skinks at all, unless you are down a couple of skinks and it's a badly hurt and you know you're getting it back. But Lizardmen want to win in regulation time wherever possible. Then we've got Lizardmen build number 2. Build 2 is very similar to build 1. It's the 6 skilled block players. And then I've traded the Chameleon Skink in and upgraded to a reroll. So really that's what we're saying here is, what do you want? Do you want a Chameleon Skink for the short drives and the on the ball to go and fetch the ball on maybe a 2 or 3 turn drive back? Or do you want the stability of 3 rerolls, but with only 11 players, you're probably having to deploy the apothecary in much more of a something gets injured, right, I'll roll the apothecary at it kind of method. I haven't done Lizardmen yet, but this is probably the build I'm going to go with when it comes to lizard people. Right, let's keep the content going. We're going to go straight into the next one. So the next team is Orcs, and this is 6 skill Orcs. So this is one of the last tier 1 teams. I think we've got 2 left. I've gone for 2 block big uns and 2 guard big uns with 4 blitzers, 1 thrower, 12 players total, and 3 linemen. So the chassis really is a 12 player build with 3 rerolls and an apothecary. You have 20k left over, or 25k really. And I've got a coach and a cheerleader. I think you could absolutely take 2 coaches just to try and do some reroll denial. I've gone for 1-on-1, and this is the exact build that I took. This is very close to the exact build that I took for when I completed my arena run with Orcs. The thing that I traded out, I think I got rid of the tackle and I swapped it for a frenzy, but you know, those of you who watch the channel, you'll understand why. I think this is the best build for Orcs in arena, and that is the 12 players, 2 block, 2 guard, 1 tackle, 1 mighty blow. Going into the second build that I think is absolutely viable for Orcs, it is with a troll. This one is to try and give you some value with respect to, I'll just swap those 2 around, with respect to the troll and the goblin. Notice that now instead of having 3 rerolls and an apothecary, we had to trade the apothecary out, and we've swapped it. So we've swapped the apothecary for the troll and for a goblin. So the goblin troll combo for the 1 turn, and I've then moved a guard skill onto the troll, giving us 2 extra guards on the big uns. So we've gone, if we've got the strength, let's lean into it and amplify that with some guard. We've got 1 unskilled big un now, 1 big un with block, and then we've got a tackle and a mighty blow. I think that the other thing you could do here is you could maybe take the mighty blow out or the tackle out, and then skill up the unskilled big un with either guard or block, kind of your choice. But the concept here is that you're giving yourself the chance of throwing a goblin to try and win at the end of a half that didn't go quite so well for you. Okay, next one we're going to go to is we're going to have a look at Undead. So Undead, I have 2 builds for you, and the Undead are always an interesting one to skill up on tabletop. So this build is 6 skills, and we've got 2 mummies, 2 whites, 4 ghouls, and 3 rerolls down with 13 players. I've ended up with 10k left over, so we bought a coach. I think coach is generally better, because normally it's reroll denial for your opponent as much as it is you getting that reroll. And I've gone 1 guard, double guard blitzers, and then because I've got guard on the big strength access players, then I needed, or I felt like I needed, something to be able to sack balls when we're diving in and we're trying to attack stuff. So 2 block ghouls, and then the wrestle ghoul is the sack piece. And then, unless I have to, I'd be running the ball on the unskilled ghoul, so that the block ghouls are able to run around with their blodge and be defensive, not particularly nice targets. The wrestle ghoul is the sweeper and the safety that you can use to try and sack things, and then the guard gives you the platform to be able to stand and fight. We now look at the second Undead build that I would recommend for you. We have swapped that around a little bit. So I've got rid of the tackle, I've got rid of the double guard. So we've dropped a guard overall. I've swapped it out to a tackle, and then I've made the ghouls slightly more powerful, and we've got 3 blocking ghouls. And again, if you can run the ball on the naked ghoul, I kind of do, because that means the 3 blocking ghouls are on the outside of the cage. But if you're playing into something with strip ball, or that the opponent's got a very viable tackle piece, then you probably run the ball on one of the block ghouls to give yourself a little bit more resilience. Overall, Undead are a really important team that you use all the pieces together and you don't start just stringing them out and separating them out, otherwise they will get picked apart. They are a team like Necro that you need to apply all the pieces together. So let's look at the next one. That concludes tier 1. So now we're into tier 2 stuff, and Scaven are the first tier 2 team, and they get an extra skill and an extra 10k of cash. I don't know my Scaven. Okay, so this is the Scaven run that I actually completed Scaven with. I won't spoil the result because that hasn't gone up on YouTube at the time of recording of this. But this was the build that I took for Scaven. We've got a Juggernaut Rat Ogre. The blitzers were Guard and Tackle. I've then gone 4 Gutter Runners. We've got a Sidestep, 2 Block and a Wrestle. I personally am not a fan of Strip Ball Gutters. No skill on the thrower, and then linemen down to 13 with 3 rerolls. So the weakness here is that there's no apothecary, and I think things that you can absolutely change around. You could drop a skill on a gutter runner potentially, turn it into leader on the thrower, and then you can either just play off 4 rerolls because that's amazing, or you can trade on a reroll into the apothecary to try and give the team a little bit more resilience. This build was fine, but I don't think that variant is terrible at all. The things that I would absolutely recommend are, you definitely do give the skilled Rat Ogre. You probably do want Juggernaut because you probably are going to be blitzing with it a fair bit. In an ideal world, they said off block, but we haven't got access to that. I do think a Guard Blitzer is really important, and weirdly, double Guard would also be fine. But what I wouldn't do is probably skill one of the Blitzers with Mighty Blow, because within a couple of turns, that Blitzer is just getting stuck somewhere and you're not getting it back out again. So double Guard or Guard Tackle, pretty good. Depends on what you think the meta is going to be. But I really like this. So let's go and look at our next team. We've got Wood Elves. Wood Elves in Arena. This one is a dodge spam template. So I've gone and put as much dodge into the team as possible. It's built off 11 players total, with 2 War Dancers, 4 Catchers, and then linemen down to 11, 3 rerolls, and an Apothecary. And then the skill choices on top, we get 7 skills. So I've got double War Dancer skills, 1 Tackle, 1 Strip Ball. That's probably the 2 correct skills for all War Dancers. I have seen some people take a Sidestep, and I've seen some people take a Frenzy. But ultimately, I think that these 2 skills really give you a good boost in almost every single matchup. One of those 2 skills, or both, is going to be viable in every single matchup. If you put Sidestep or Frenzy in there, then the skill that you've had to drop from those 2 might be counterbalanced by a sure hands or no dodge on the opponent, and then all of a sudden you're struggling a little bit. But this one is a little bit fragile, but very mobile. So we've got 6 dodge here, and we've also got 2 dodge here. So that's 8 dodge pieces that all dodge on agility 2+. And then the idea is that you move the ball around, or you just chase and change the board state consistently every single turn, so that your opponent is constantly chasing shadows. You must not stay static, stay still with this roster, otherwise you will get smashed to smithereens, and you're not using your advantage. The other Wood Elf arena build that we've got here is this one, and this one I've put in a tree. To pay for the tree, we've had to drop the Apothecary. This is slightly more resilient in terms of the front line, because the tree, people don't want to go near it, and that means that the line elves on either side of the tree sometimes survive a little bit better. But we've actually paid for it in quite a lot of mobility. So I have dropped out 2 Catchers, and we've swapped in a Thrower. on the idea that the thrower will give you a little bit of additional quick score capacity. I haven't skilled up the tree, and I think you could, but I have tried to repair some of the dodge damage. So one of the linemen's got dodge. We've got 2 wrestle linemen. That's the 3 skills there, and then we've got sidestep, strip ball, and tackle. So it's an okay team. Not perfect, but it's okay. In fact, I think it's actually due an extra skill. So I think we'd probably put grab on the tree, or guard on the tree. Right, it's supposed to have 7 skills. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're missing a skill, so I'd actually put guard in there. Okay, right, now we're going to go and look at my favourite team in all of Blood Bowl land, which is Necromancer, and I've got 2 arena builds for you on this one. This is the first one. Arena build number 1 is 4 guard, so we'll actually go through the chassis first of all. We've got 12 players, 2 flesh golems, 2 wraiths, 2 wolves, 1 ghoul, the zombies down to 12, and then we've got 3 rerolls. That doesn't leave you with any spare cash, and we'd be looking to build with 7 skills. So luckily we have 7 positionals, and unfortunately it's not very imaginative, but it does work. It's 4 guard across the golems and the wraiths, and then 3 block across the werewolves and the ghoul runners. This specific roster took me all the way to the Blood Bowl 3 World Cup semi-final, and it did me proud. So I think it's absolutely solid and viable. I haven't done it in arena yet, but it will be one of the next few teams that I will be looking to trundle through. Great team, great roster. Let's have a look and see what I came up with. Arena 2. So Arena 2, the reason I'm giggling is because in that World Cup semi-final, the team that I got beat by was a Necro team. And this is that team. Literally, this is that team. So it is a slight change. We've dropped a werewolf, and then we've upgraded to another ghoul. So 3 players across these. It's just 2 ghouls and 1 werewolf rather than 2 wolves and a ghoul. And then we've also been able to, with that extra cash, buy a 13th player. So in an overtime format, this is pretty good because having that 13th player gives you a little bit more resilience. The argument for having 1 wolf is that you can't often blitz or hit with both of them in most turns. So why not just have 1? I personally prefer the 2, but this has been demonstrated as a very viable build. So I think that they are both completely fine. And then here we've got the wrestle ghoul for a little bit of sacking. I think you could probably change that to a block or a sure hands, and both of those other skills would also be fine. So next team we're going to look at is Pro Elves. Right, okay. Pro Elves. This team also tier 2, so gets 7 skills total and 1160 cash. On this, we've got 2 blitzers. I've put 4 catchers. In fact, we'll go through skills in a second. 1 thrower, lineman down to 12. Only 2 rerolls, which is a little on the fluffy side, light side, and an apothecary. Notice no assistant fluffiness down there. So it's 12 players and an apothecary. It's okay. And then skill-wise, 2 dodge. So we've got 2 blodge sidestep. These are typically used to go and harass the back of cages or control the sideline or just control directly in front of the cage. But they are very much going to be very close to the cage, either at the front or the back, depending on what turn you're on and kind of how you're playing. But these are your key pieces. And then you've got 4 catchers, 2 dodge and 2 wrestle. Ideally, you're looking for the wrestle catchers to be able to get in and sack a ball on a 1D or even 2D if you can get there. But your wrestle catchers are your sackers, and then your dodge catchers are your scorers, and they're the ones that you will typically be running off with, and movement 8 dodge, agi 2+ with nerves of steel means that you really should be going wherever you like. And then we finally got a thrower, and I've put leader on it to try and bolster that reroll back from 2 up to 3. Slight variant, and I know I haven't seen the other roster yet, but a slight variant is to drop leader on the thrower and turn that into a normal skill like a block or a wrestle or a dodge, and then we'll cancel the apothecary and turn that into a 3rd reroll. So the reroll, the leader there is to try and effectively give you an apothecary. So it's okay. It's okay. And this I haven't done Pro Elves yet, but this is probably the build that I'll be going with. Build number 2, however, is a slight variant, and this is where we've gone for 2 blitzers and only 3 catchers. Catchers are the most expensive part on a Pro Elf build, and with that, we've then gone linemen down to 12. What that has given me in terms of building is that I've been able to roster that 3rd reroll properly, so it can't get killed off via the throwing and smash to smithereens. And it's also then meant we can keep an apothecary in there. I have got an assistant coach, so a variant on this build would be to drop the apothecary and the coach and buy a 13th player. That would just give you 13 naturally, but anything that gets dead is dead. And the top order in this team is incredibly important. So the 2 blitzers and the 3 catchers, I think if anything gets hurt, on a badly hurt especially, you're bringing them back with the apothecary. And then we've got 2 linemen with skills here, so they don't have to stand on the line of scrimmage. This build would play slightly differently than the other build. This one is with the wrestle linemen, you're looking to stand in the way, and if they press into you, you're quite happy to throw 1 dice blocks. You're actually fighting forwards rather than dodging back with the wrestle linemen, and you're looking to create little gaps and little chinks that your opponent is going to leave by hitting the multiple wrestle pieces here, and then you'll be able to dive in and try and sack the ball. The other one is probably slightly more about standing off and then picking your moment with the wrestle catcher, because that's not going to be a frontline piece, rather than the wrestle linemen here very much are. So let's go and have a look at the next one. Oh, Norse. Okay, so Norse, I've got 2 templates for you here, and these are also a tier 2 team. So this is a build which is almost the build that I completed the Norse arena with using Norse. It is different by 1 skill, and I think this, having played it, this is the build that I would take. So we have a Snow Troll, 2 Ulfs, 2 Valks, 1 Zerker, linemen down to 11, and then 2 Beer Pigs. And then extra fluffy stuff, we've got at the bottom, we've got an apothecary, 3 rerolls, and 1 coach. The difference between what I actually completed arena with and this build is the Snow Troll, or the Yeti. I took Mighty Blow and it was completely useless, and I always kept wishing if only I'd got guard, so I've built this roster with guard. We've got 3 guard across the top, 2 wrestle Valks for ball sacking because they've got some amazing combo skills with wrestle. Right, we've got strip ball, and we've got dauntless, so they can hit a strength 4 thing with an assist, and they can get 2 dice on it. Or they can just hit a strength 4 thing on their own and maybe get 1 dice on it, and with the wrestle that really helps. And I've avoided the temptation to give either of them dodge, because I think they actually use them as quite aggressive players rather than screen pieces. The Berserker takes Mighty Blow because that's your blitzer, not the Snow Troll, which is what I did differently and realised during the run. And then I've got a 1 tackle on the lineman. That piece just sort of sits slightly behind a lot of the other linemen, or just tries to stay slightly more central depending on the team you're playing with because yeah, it has got drunkard, so it is making go for it on a 3, so you need it to be central. You need to be very conscious about where you put that player. If it goes to one of the flanks, you need to make sure that you jam up the opposite side so that the ball comes to your tackle piece, rather than it spots where your tackle piece is and it runs away, right? You have to be really careful with that. And then although we've got 13 on the roster, we do have the bench pieces are the Beer Pigs, which are not great. However, if you field 1 at the beginning, then you'll probably have you will have a lineman on the bench, and then if a lineman dies, you can then swap the lineman for the lineman and the Beer Pig for the Beer Pig, and it's fine, right? What you need to avoid the temptation to do is bench both pigs, because they're not very good, and you need to play with that pig for the pick-me-up. The pig-me-up, as we enjoyed on the stream. So that was a good roster. Variant on it is this one. This is the second option. This build is basically dropping the Snow Troll and trying to be a slight bit more resilient. And we've got 3 rerolls. We've got the coach and the apothecary. I've got 14 players, and it'll be okay. We've got an extra berserker, so instead of having the guard platform on the strength 5 thing that might not behave itself, we've put it on the strength 3 thing that will behave itself. So it's pretty good, and it also gives you a little bit more in the assistant areas. And we've got it doesn't. It gives you an extra player. So the Berserker and the Lineman, or the Snow Troll. I haven't tried this roster. I suspect this roster is going to perform very well. And if I was going to do another arena run, I would be absolutely trying this roster to see, you know, kind of how good it is. Right, next one we've got is humans. Not to be confused with Norse. Humans are actually worse than Norse. So first one is this one. This is the vanilla human build that I've got for you. It is 1 ogre, 4 blitzers, 2 catchers, thrower, lineman, and a little hobbit. That gives us 3 rerolls, a coach, and an apothecary. So it's 13 players and an apothecary and 3 rerolls, right? Humans are cheap. It gives you a little bit of everything. The downside of humans is they're just not very good. The stat lines on the players are meh. So even with 4 guard and the tackle and the double block, it's just a little bit underwhelming. I think humans are one of the hardest teams of the normal teams to try and complete arena with. They are slightly over tiered. You would want them to have access to tackle mighty blow if you were playing humans really competitively, and you wouldn't want to have to pay for that with an extra skill, or you'd need to give them 8 skills so you can pay for it with the skill, and you end up with 7 skills, one of which is a tackle mighty blow stack. But yeah, this build, I will be doing it, and I think this will be one of the real hard ones. I don't know if I'll be able to complete this first time using this build. Human arena number 2 is this one. This one is the first build. I think I'm going to show you a little bit in the inducements window, or second build, isn't it? With inducements. So it's the same chassis broadly, although I've dropped out a thrower and I've dropped out the hobbit and I've dropped out the apothecary. So that thrower downgrade to a lineman saves me 20k. The hobbit get rid of is 30k, and the apothecary gone is 50k. That's a total saving of 100k. I wonder if you can spot what I might have done. That's right, I've picked up a bribe. So we've rostered a bribe in this one, and as such, I've then modified the skill choices on the players. So instead of one of the throwers having block, I've actually got dirty player and a lineman. If you like that idea, the other option that you can toy around with here is you can put sneaky git on someone, and we've got a catcher with an open skill, so you could move the dirty player up to the catcher for sneaky git. It'll be a little bit less spiky in terms of the damage, but it'll probably be more consistent, and you can keep fouling with that catcher. So you're less likely to get a removal each time, but you're more likely to be able to foul more frequently. Up to you which one you value more. I've done some tabletop tournaments with sneaky git catcher, and I have to admit, it does actually slightly impact how your opponent plays, because they're very conscious that you will foul pretty much all the time. So there is a little bit of value you can get if certainly you're playing a slightly higher skill level of Blood Bowl, that the sneaky git can have some quite good fun. Equally, just killing stuff with the dirty player and the bribe, also pretty dangerous. So I've put it in this way. I'm just offering you a slight alternative. Next one, Underworld. Quite like the green graphics on that one. So what do we got? Underworld on page, that one. And dive into the team. So there are some choices on Underworld that you always need to be going through in terms of what are you trying to achieve and how are you going to play them. First one we need to decide is which one of the 2 big guys you're having. Are you having the Rat Ogre or are you having the Troll? And if you're having the Rat Ogre, are you going to be using it to try and push the Gutter Runner forward in one turn, or are you going to be doing something else? And if you are you therefore taking 2 heads, or are you taking Sidestep, right? Those skills have to combo up. Otherwise we have a bit of a problem. So this build I've gone for Juggernaut. I've got a Mighty Blow Blitzer for punching stuff. We've got a Gutter Runner, a Dirty Player, and 2 Wrestle Line Rats Leader, which gives me total of 3 rerolls, only 2 Goblins, and then a load of Cannon Fodder Snotlings to just get in the way. Now, this whole build probably only comes into 1000 TV, so we absolutely do get a load of inducements when it comes to Underworld. And in this particular case, they've also got discount on bribes and discount on bias ref. So we've got 1 bribe, 1 wizard, and a bias referee. That means that the playstyle for this team is to disengage from the actual game of Blood Bowl to go and find stragglers on your opponent's team and murder them. Once you've picked them out, then the opponent might have a few players, and you're probably deploying the wizard probably in the second half. But the wizard does combo really nicely with the gutter runner, because if the gutter isn't too far away, for whatever reason, fireball, bang, knockover ball, gutter runner gets in, clears off. But the first few turns, the idea strike here is that you use the mighty blow, you knock it over, and then you stamp on it. You're not looking to play active Blood Bowl in a traditional sense. This is very much a guerrilla warfare type team. With that in mind, this is arena version number 2, and here I included a troll. It's the same concept with the mighty blow, same concept with a gutter runner with the 2 heads. This could easily be block, could also be sidestep, but probably not in this build, probably block. And then we've got the same idea here, 2 rerolls and apothecary. I've got 16 players now, not 15. And again, we're leaning heavily into the inducements. I've got 2 kegs, 2 bribes, and a bias referee. Now this one is slightly different, which is that because you've got the kegs, every single player that gets KO'd comes back on a 2+. You've got 16 of them, so there's loads of them just coming back. We've got 2 bribes, not 1, so we just keep fouling. And the bias referee means we can keep arguing the call on getting sent off. So argue the call on a 5+, not a 6+. And if opponents start fouling us, they get sent off. They roll dice, and if it's a 5+, they get kicked out. So it's a pretty dangerous team. It's also very resilient. It doesn't have the wizard, but it does have absolutely extra resilience. It's probably a turn 24 type team where you're looking to outlast your opponent and grind them down and do really well. It therefore has some bad matchups, so regen teams can be problematic. Teams with thick skull, which don't do well by being fouled, or don't care about being fouled as much because of thick skull, it doesn't do well there. But any team with 11 or 12 players, it'll absolutely smush them. So it's a bit of a matchup specific team, but certainly very competent. Okay, right, we've done tier 1 and tier 2. Let's now have a quick look at the rules again. And I'm going to dive into, we're going to pick it back up again, probably with Black Orcs, I think. But notice now that we now get 1170 of skills, and we also, 1170 of cash, and then we also get 8 skills now, one of which can be a secondary skill. So, let's dive in. In fact, we're going to pick it up with Chaos. There's a beautiful goat. And this is my first Chaos team. So this is probably my favourite of the 2 Chaos offerings I've got for you. We've got a block Minotaur for blitzing. We've got 4 block Chaos Warriors for just being strong and being in the way. And then I've gone and done a mild Swiss Army knife in terms of players. So we've got a ball carrier with block. We've got a guard thing that follows the Minotaur around and hopefully provides 3 dice blocks or 3 dice blitzes for the Minotaur. And then we've got a wrestle, which is the sack piece. Bad news, we don't have an apothecary. So Chaos are one of the weaker teams in Arena because 12 players, no apothecary. A lot of the teams we've already seen, 12 players plus an apothecary. You could trade a reroll out for it, but 2 rerolls genuinely sucks. And there isn't really anything else you can do for this if you want to use the Minotaur for the blitzing. So 1 cheerleader, 1 coach, 3 rerolls, and then a Minotaur. So this is the Minotaur build. We've also got Arena, I think it's this one, Arena 1. No, Arena 2. Bad, wicked, naughty Davo. There we go. So we've got the Troll, and instead of having the spare Gumph that we had down here, I have been able to now get the Apothecary in, and we've got the Troll. I've used the double skill for block on the Troll. It's 4 block here, 2 Sackers, because we don't need the guard anymore, and then a ball carrier with block. This is probably slightly more resilient, slightly more reliable. The Troll also having regen makes that lump unlikely to go away. I think it's less fun. Not sure whether it's more effective or not. I haven't done Chaos in Arena yet, so I don't know. I will be taking the Minotaur build when I do my Chaos run. Right, next one we're going to go look at is Nurgle. Okay, so this is unusual. I wasn't expecting this. Okay, so we got Nurgle with no beast. What it has given me though is 4 block, 4 bloaters, 4 pestigores, and then rotters down to 13. We've got 3 rerolls. We can't get an apothecary because the team has or has not got regen depending on the player, and we've got 2 coaches to try and maximize the ability to pick up an extra reroll. This will be solid and safe, and we're doing blitzing with the mighty blow guy or the tackle guy depending on what we're hitting into. It's got a decent amount of ball carrying. It's okay, and it's probably the more resilient of the 2 rosters. The problem with Nurgle in the cash band that they were given is that they don't build very well. They needed another 10k, and I noticed when I was building all the rosters for this, I kept coming short. I think I actually got my notes that this team need for 3 different builds. 10k more was the difference between making it just fit quite nicely or not fitting at all. And in fact, I think even here you can see that it doesn't fit very well, right? We've got 5k of wasted cash here, and we've got 20k here, so that's 25k. And there's 5k of wasted cash and there's 5k here. If I had another 10k, I could spend that 35k left on another rotter. We could have a 14th player. And so what do I want? 2 assistant coaches or another rotter? I'll definitely take another rotter, please. So even on this build, it hasn't built very nicely, but that's kind of what I was able to build with it. Let's see if I can find Nurgle 1. Oh, it's there. No, it's not. Oh, it's there, look. It's right next to it, Davo. Okay, so this build, we've put the beast in, and to try and offset the reroll problem, I've spent leader on the pestigore, and we've traded down a pestigore and put in the rotspawn, and it's just very block heavy, right? You needed the block. I think you need the double block on the pestigores to give you something. You probably could play wrestle block if you wanted to. We don't have a mighty blow piece. We don't really have a victory condition here. We do have 13 players, but again, right, 10k short. I've got 30k of assistant coaches. If I had 10k more, we could buy another rotter. Can't. If I had 10k more, I could probably then turn this into a reroll, which would allow me to move the leader up here to block, which would then mean that this skill could be much more useful, like a wrestle or a tackle or a mighty blow. So Nurgle in the current rule set for season 7 really struggling a little bit, and I think so far of the teams we've looked at, probably the weakest. Humans and Chaos being the other 2 that stand out in my mind as being pretty rubbish. But yeah, that's where we're at so far. Right, let's go and look at most overpowered team in all of Blood Bowl. We've just been looking at the weakest one, and that is going to be Imperial Nobility. There we go. This is the Imperial Nobility team. So Imperial Nobility get 7 skills plus a double or a secondary skill. The chassis for this is, again, Imperial Nobility build really badly into 1170 cash. They really wanted 1180. And as such, we've had to make some compromises. And I think broadly, whenever you see me spending nonsense down here, right, and it doesn't really fit, that's kind of why. It's that they're not costed very well in terms of their actual overall player costs. So 13 players overall, 1 thrower with leader to try and prop up the rerolls, because we've got 1 eye on it going to overtime. I definitely want 3 rerolls on builds if I can possibly do it. The 4 guard on the 4 bodyguards is just standard. The 2 dodge on the 2 blitzes is again pretty standard. And then the block ogre. So block ogre, if you're not blocking the ogre and you're putting guard on it, that frees the double up, and that probably means that you're going to put guard on the thrower, which is what Andre used in his award-winning Blood Bowl 3 run in December. But I like this build. I think this is the build that I would be recommending to people. Certainly, yeah, maybe newer players, right? I think this is the idea of this guide, is to help you guys as newer players. But this is the build that I would be recommending, and this is the build that I probably myself will be taking into the arena myself. Haven't got another one here, so let's go and have a look at our next team. Next team is OWA. OWA, here we go. So this one we have 13 players. We have got every single type of player that you can possibly think of here. And I have got a Block Ogre, a guard combo on the Dwarves. The only one that hasn't got guard is the Troll Slayer. And this is where you have to probably make your first actual choice. Do you guard the Troll Slayer? And then if you do you Mighty Blow the Human Blitzer, because that'll be what you want to be blitzing with every time? Or do you tackle the Human Blitzer with an eye that you will be playing into some agility teams, and then the Troll Slayer is the one that's doing the blitz? The problem with blitzing with the Troll Slayer on this team rather than the actual Dwarf team is this one has Loner. It has Loner 3+. So some of the time you'll roll double skulls for no good reason, and it will just screw you over. So this is why old OWA are one of the lower tier teams. You can make them work, but they're really bloody hard. So this build will work, but it is hard work. We've got Block Catcher, Block Thrower, and I've gone for the slightly safer Tackle Human Blitzer. And then if I'm playing this, I'm blocking and blitzing with the Ogre and the Troll Slayer, but I'm doing it in such a way that the blitz is probably slightly later on in my turn ordering, so that I can get away with fails if at all possible. It is a little bit of a flimsy roster. It's only got 13 players because the two bench pieces are little fat hobbits. So although it's got 13 people, don't look at this as a roster to be playing overtime with. You really want to try and win games in regulation time if you can at all do it. I think I had another OWA build. Oh, I do. It's this one here. My other OWA build is this one, and this is the build that I will be taking into Arena. I haven't started it yet, but it is going in soon. And you might notice here that a load of stuff has been trimmed off the bottom here. So we've only got one reroll, and I've got no Apothecary. But that's because I've managed to trade in a leader, but I've gone for an inducement package where we've got a wizard. So I will be playing a wizard OWA in Arena shortly, and I'm curious to see how this will play out. It's probably a little bit less standard, but I like it. Next one we're going to look at is Renegades. Renegades is a team that I'm currently actually playing Arena with, and this is my build. So we have got a Block Rat Ogre, double guard on the other two big guys. I've got a dodge Dark Elf. I've got a Scaven with Wrestle, and then I've gone 3 block linemen. And quite frankly, the 3 block linemen have been bloody amazing, right? They're really, really, really good. I've really enjoyed putting these in. This has been also another team that has built really badly to 1170 TV. Really found that 1180 would have been so much better. For example, we've got 2 assistant coaches and 1 cheerleader. That's 30k. If I had 10k more, I could then buy a Goblin at 40k, and that would give me an extra player and would give me the one turning threat with the Ogre or Troll throw. So I would very much like to see a bunch of teams get a little bit more cash in the next season's Arena. And currently, I think that Renegades, Nurgle, Chaos, and Imperial Nobility, all of those 4, I would give more cash to open up their team building options so far. There is another team which we haven't covered yet, but those are the 4 so far that I would be nudging Cyanide and saying, hey, can we have a bit more cash for these teams, please? Oh. I made all these transitions, we're going to bloody use them. So next one is Black Orcs, and they are... Yeah. Here we go. Black Orcs. So this one is a 7+1 build. So we've got 7 normal skills plus 1 secondary. And broadly, the team itself builds itself very easily, right? You take the Troll, you take all 6 Black Orcs, and then you take some Goblins. Whether you take 11 or you take 12, that's your first choice. But you're either taking 11, 12, or 13. In this particular build, I've taken 12. That gave me access to 3 rerolls. And Black Orcs are the other team, or one of the other couple of teams in this, which gets cheap, some inducements slightly cheap. So I've spent 2 50k bribes to give me access to 2 bribes. That then means we can go away and think about what we're going to do in terms of skills with the team. So Goblins have general access on a secondary, and they have agility access on a primary. So we can have, same with the human team where I put the Fowler in, we can sneaky get a Goblin and keep fouling, or we can spend a secondary skill, the secondary skill, and we can put Dirty Player in, and we can foul with a little bit more oomph, but we're more likely to get removed ourselves more quickly. The choice here ultimately is, do you want to block the Troll and then sneaky get the Goblin, or are you swapping those round and you're guarding the Troll and you're Dirty Player in the Goblin? That's where you're putting your secondary and your remaining primary. And then the other option, the other bit here is, how are you skilling the Black Orcs? You could go full bang and you could put 6 Mighty Blow in. When they hit, they're more likely to cause something, but they are much more fragile. Or you can be a little bit more pragmatic. You can take 3 or 4 guard, and you can try and make them as a unit and then less easy to knock over. They're going to do a little bit less damage, but they're going to be more resilient. They're probably going to get slightly more hits. And then I've put 2 block in there so that if we need to hit something and knock it over, we're going to be blitzing with something. We may as well blitz with something with block, so get additional knockdowns. And I've got 1 Mighty Blow Black Orc for punching stuff. Ultimately in here, you can have 2-2-2. You can have some other combination. I've gone 2 block, 3 guard, because I think that I'm trying to show you guys the right way to play, which is lots of guard on Black Orcs is good. And then 1 Mighty Blow for a little bit of punch. And then with a little nod to removal, I've gone for the Dirty Player. This is, think how I'm going to play Black Orcs in Arena, but I also think that 2-2-2 would also be fine, right? Change that guard for a Mighty Blow. Okay, next one is... next one is Goblins. Reflex action there, sorry. We've got 2 Trained Trolls, 1 Pogo, 1 Hooligan, 1 Loony, 1 Fanatic, and I've also managed to bend in 1 Star Player, so 13 players natural plus Ripper. We do only have 1 reroll and no Apothecary, so it's a little bit of a flimsy roster. I haven't put the skills on. Oh dear. Oh dear. Well, the skills would be 1 guard, 1 leader, 1 pogo with sure hands. That's my 2 double skills spent. The hooligan gets sneaky git, the loony gets dodge, the fanatic gets mighty blow, and then any of the remaining skills I'd go sidestep on the lineman. This is bizarre. I thought I'd built this. It must be on the other one I built. And then for an inducements packet, we've gone for 2 bribes, and of course 1 star player. So this build works, and it is basically the 3 troll build. I'm not in any way a goblin coach, and I will offer no more advice other than here is a possible roster that you could possibly try if you're crazy. Goblin Arena number 2 is without, there we go, I skilled this one. This one is no star player. So the lack of star player means we get some cash back, and so I've got an extra reroll in here, and that meant that I could spend the double skills, 1 on the troll. I put sure hands on the pogo because I think sure hands pogo really is that important, and then we've got basically the same skills as I just called out, and then inducements wise 2 bribes and a bias referee. So that's where I'm putting the extra cash that I did have in Ripper. We've got it in here, so it'll work. It's fine. Yeah, again, not goblin coach, but here is a roster for you just to complete everything. And then the final roster for you is the other Stunty team, and that is this one here. So, Stunty team. Again, I put a star player in. On the rules pack, we are not allowed the mega stars, so I have had to put in Call of 1 Kill. In some tabletops, if you're going to play Stunty, they are now a star player caddy team, effectively, not a real team anymore. And in this one, we have had to put Carla in. You would normally play something like Griff Flings, or you would play Morg Flings, but ultimately, Carla is probably the most powerful of the remaining stars that we can get in there. I've put double block on the trees, because if you're going to punch stuff, we may as well try and hurt things. Carla carries the ball, 1 sneaky git, 2 sidestep, 2 sprint, 2 diving tackle. It's my skill combos. The skills for flings really suck. There's just nothing good for the flings here. And then inducements wise, I've got 1 chef, which is absolutely core and standard. You must take that. And then I decided to take a wizard. Again, not a fling coach, not really my area of expertise, but here is a roster that is not terrible. Is it the best one? Dunno. But it is a roster and it is not terrible. So let's quickly go back and look at the rules. And a quick recap here. Make sure that when you're building your team, if you have not already copied one of these rosters, that you go and spend all of your cash allocation first. Build your team and think of it like the chassis on a car. You put the build in and you put the players and the rerolls and all that sort of stuff, and you spend 1150, 1160, 1170 or 1180 depending on your tier. Second thing, then go and put your skills on it. And you should be looking at basically taking block, guard, dodge, mighty blow, or fouling skills as your core skills, and then you build around those once you've got enough of those core skills. That is how you build it, and that is what I was doing whenever I was looking at any rosters. Hope this guide was helpful, and I will look forward to seeing you either on other videos on YouTube. Please make sure you leave a comment and subscribe and all that fun stuff on YouTube. And if you want to come and be directly interactive, then come and say hello on our Twitch channel. Stream 5 nights a week, typically from about 7 o'clock in the UK, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. Till then, thank you very much indeed. See you in the next video. Bye now.